I see this openness, this willingness to help as part of the tradition itself of Islam, but also clearly within the Hizmet movement, involving disaster relief, any communities having any difficulties whatsoever, individuals in the community that are having trouble. Tradition of those in the community, and this interfaith aspect within Islam. People getting along, and just. My name is Dr. Peter Cohen. I teach religion at Clemson University. I'm a senior lecturer in the Philosophy and Religion department. I teach predominantly world religions and introduction to the study of religion. A number of years ago, a few graduate students from Clemson, from the mechanical engineering department, came by my office and asked me if I would speak to their group at a dinner. And they just wanted a person to speak on different religious traditions, and it was my pleasure to do so. And that's how I originally got involved. And it's probably 12 years ago to 14 years ago that occurred. The Hizmet movement I've been involved with it for many years, and I have nothing but positive things to say about it. It's a movement that clearly, from its name and service, seeks to help people, offer them many different opportunities within the community from their perspective as well as the community's. And I've experienced nothing but positive things through the movement over the past dozen or so years. I've done a lot of research into the movement since I got involved and read a number of Mr. Fethullah Gulen's works. And his writings, his philosophy are likened to a number of different peacemakers in the world historically. And he clearly seems like a very gentle man who is interested in people getting along and, just trying to find the similarities, much like myself, similarities between different religious communities and traditions rather than their differences. And for that reason, I enjoy his writings, both heavily Islamic as well as just some of his more general writings as well. The movement is very involved in religious dialogue, which I've been involved with for probably the last half of my life. And getting people together, getting people to learn more about one another, to share their common ideas, is clearly one of the most important things that I've always felt within the community. That their humanitarian efforts are just, phenomenal, both within the community at large as well as the international community. They clearly have a consciousness for the other. Their volunteer structure is a wonderful model. And as a whole, it's just an openness for all peoples from every walk of life that I've seen over the past number of years. Islam, much like any other religious tradition, its teachings are very much, their core teachings of peace, of not even toleration, acceptance of other communities. I think it represents the teachings of Islam very well. The core teachings, not what you see in the news at 11 or at 6 o'clock. Clearly it looks towards the meaningful aspects of religion and it works with it. It is very much combined with it, but also works outside of Islam with other traditions very comfortably as well. There's no question in my mind that from every religious tradition I've seen many people involved with the Hizmet movement, both locally in town here, and none of the religious traditions I've seen have found any problems with it whatsoever. The teachings are very much inclusive, which is very important. Uniqueness I see within the Hizmet movement is the mobilization of volunteers. When I first got involved, I would see people as volunteers, and I really had trouble understanding until I saw very involved businessmen in the community giving a great deal of their time and their money towards the support of the Muslim community, of their own, but also of the outside communities. The idea of charity, tzedakah, within my own tradition, the Jewish tradition, clearly it's parallel to the Islamic movement. And I see this openness, this willingness to help as part of the tradition itself of Islam, but also clearly within the Hizmet movement, involving disaster relief, any communities having any difficulties whatsoever, individuals in the community that are having trouble. It's one of the religious groups I've seen and cultural groups that are very supportive of the community around them and very involved with the community around them as well, and open to community coming inside and giving them ideas. The interfaith aspect of the Hizmet movement is very near and dear to my heart. From the time I was probably 9 years old, in my household, that was a defining idea that people need to talk with one another. People need to understand their own tradition as well as the tradition of those in their community. And this interfaith aspect within the Hizmet movement on the local, state, regional, and international level, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most important things that the movement has to offer. Dealing with religious leaders, dealing with individuals, taking part in many different ceremonies from many different religious communities. As far as I am concerned, this is probably the most important thing that they have to offer widely. Everyone has a tradition that they hold to of one or another, and to show that they're open to discuss that, and that they welcome discussion, they welcome questions from other communities, for me is the most vibrant part of the movement. Education is the key to everything. Letting people know, giving people the opportunity to understand both their own tradition as well as what Hizmet stands for. You can't have a movement without education. Education opens the door for people. It opens the world for people, the opportunities, and this is clearly one of the most important driving forces within Hizmet. I had the opportunity a year and a half ago to visit one of their schools in the southeastern part of Turkey, about 12 kilometers from Syria, and I was very moved by the headmaster, who was a student originally from that community. They had just built a center there, and the students were very much accepting of the small group of us that came in, and it was just wonderful to see them learning English, learning computer skills, skills that will work in the community for them. Whereas in this area, I was told, other groups were coming in and taking the children from the families, and these children were disappearing and becoming part of other organizations, shall we say. But the students there were happy, healthy, they were fed, they had good interaction with themselves and their teachers. And I've seen a couple of other schools, but this school was in session. I visited high school and middle school and college within Turkey as well. And the facilities were top-notch. The teachers that I met were very much in the modern world. This past summer, I visited a medical school. And that was during finals, which was very interesting because the students were very much overstressed. But the facilities there were as good as any other school I've seen, and that the idea of educating the public, first and foremost, within any tradition is important. And then you can build on that when you have an informed public. The charity activities for the movement, clearly one of the 5 pillars of Islam, clearly the center of many different religious organizations, is wonderful. The constant asking for monies for different communities, for different problems within the community, for supplies for different areas that are going through disasters is just wonderful. I've never questioned the intent of the groups that have done this. And it's just, how can you not? You know, it's one of those things that is so positive that I can't think of anything negative to say about it. Clearly from their heart, from anything that's going on locally, regionally, or outside, they care. And that's the feeling I get about every program that I attend, or every one-on-one relationship I have with members of the movement, an honest caring for the other, whether that person agrees with them, disagrees with them, is of their religious tradition, of their nationality. The caring is the important thing, and that is clear in their humanitarian and charity ideas. One of the things I haven't mentioned yet, this past summer I took 6 students from Clemson on a movement trip, and we visited 2 cities, Izmir and Istanbul. And one of the most moving experiences that I've ever had was visiting Kimchi Yokmo, and I liken it to our American FEMA. And seeing the warehouses that were stored with food, supplies, vehicles, seeing their operations center with the satellites that they have that can get them to ground level, to see any of the disasters in the world, to understand what a particular part of the world needed immediately. We also delivered packages to some of the Syrian families that needed money, and saw many of the other things that this organization was doing. And it made so much of a difference to me, seeing that it's there, they care, they're real, 24/7. And I know that I can turn to anyone in this community, much like they turn to me sometimes to ask things. And I know that they would be there for me. I have made some wonderful, true friends with people from the movement, and just being able to share what they know from their culture has changed my life in an immeasurable way.
I look at Hizmet as a spiritually based movement where people are motivated to serve mankind for the better glory of mankind and of God.
Nothing is perfect, but the movement and the people within it are trying and doing some wonderful things within the community, every place I see them.